The HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast is powered by Cornerstone Gundog Academy. CGA is the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos that includes everything you need to take your 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com to sign up for the free preview module and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gundog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast. Since 1898, Old Town has been building the most advanced, quality watercraft products to give you the very best experience on the water. Whether you're hunting, fishing, or enjoying a relaxing paddle on the lake, there's a boat for every type of adventurer. If you haven't seen it, check out their newest offering, the new grab-and-go watercraft designed to function as your boat, blind, and retriever. The easy-to-conceal, 11-foot 9-inch, 56-pound Solo Sportsman is the ideal craft for those in search of a stable, lightweight craft that's easy to paddle and even easier to transport or stash. Designed with the hunter and angler in mind, the Solo Sportsman is equipped with thoughtful shell, tackle, and tool storage, a comfortable and adjustable seat and foot braces, an accessory track, and rod holders. Check it out at oldtowncanoe.com/sportsman. Out in the field, how you've prepared determines how you'll perform. With balanced fat and protein to support peak condition, Eukanuba Premium Performance Dog Food enhances strength, energy, and endurance. So when the pavement ends and the truck doors swing open, you and your dogs are ready for anything. Strong, focused, ready for anything? That's a Eukanuba dog. Soundgear is offering a 35% discount to the HP Outdoors listeners for their instant fit industrial and shooter products. You can head over to soundgearhearing.com and use the promo code HPOWP35 to claim your discount today. Original design, select grade components, superior sound, and unparalleled service. 737 takes exceptional pride in producing the finest quality, best built premium calls on the market today. They're made right here in America, and they're offered only direct to consumers through their website. Shipping in the U.S. is always free, and international orders are also accepted online. A 20-day money-back guarantee and lifetime warranty accompanies every call purchased. 737 Duck Calls. Lead the flock. All right. Welcome to episode 182 of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast, where your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. You can check us out at hpoutdoors.com. If you're new to the show, you can head over to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere you can find quality podcast content. You can find our show. You can also check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're a Facebook user, you can head over to our Facebook listeners group. We're actually recording this episode live in the listeners group right now. So if you had questions or wanted to interact with us while we record this, you could certainly head over there and do that. You can also head over there to chat with my charming co-host, Dan Harushka. Dan, what's up, man?
That's pretty sweet. Charming. I like that word. I feel like I did a disservice of not saying happy birthday like publicly on Facebook to you, but happy belated birthday. And of course, I smoked some ribs in honor of you. So
I saw that. Yeah,
they're delicious.
I felt honored. I mean, I was like, wow, my birthday is as much of an occasion for you to smoke the exact same thing that you always do. So I felt quite privileged. Thank you.
Right in my wheelhouse, man.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Before we get any further into this, can we get a sit rep on the internet tonight? How are we doing?
Oh, it's still awful.
Awful.
I don't even know what to say anymore.
So we should anticipate some.
I mentioned before we got on here, I just need to rent out some office space and get some high-speed internet.
Yeah, we should anticipate some Robo-Dan tonight, perhaps.
Oh, I'm sure it'll happen.
Yeah,
I'm actually surprised it already hasn't.
I'll give it time, my friend. All right, so this week we're going to jump into something we're calling kind of like a newbie episode, because pretty much every year, this time of year, we get questions hitting us in email and on social media about, guys that are saying, hey, this is going to be my first year duck hunting or goose hunting, or this is my first year to get after it. And they want to know what to get, where to start, how to approach it. And, when we were talking about it, I can't remember if we've talked about this specifically or not in the past. I know we've talked about this a little bit, but we figured, this week we'll talk about some of the things that specifically you should consider before you kind of get into the deal, right? Before you're already sinking money into different things and trying to figure out what you're going to do. So maybe, a little bit of guidance with the benefit of hindsight, having, gone down this road, starting in the sport. One thing I do want to ask, though, we've neglected this the last several episodes, so we wanted to right or wrong here. But it will help you as a newbie and as if you're a seasoned guy. We've got some discounts here set up with our podcast that we've not been promoting as much as we probably should have. So Dan, tell us what we've got in the way of, if folks want to get a hookup from some of our sponsors and relationships that we've got with different companies in the space.
Well, one of the first things that people always ask about is Gunner Kennels. HP Outdoors 2 is going to get you 10% off, I believe, and right now they are having free shipping. Sound gear, ear protection, HPO 35 is going to save you 35% off the InstaFits, which we have the customs, and I have not had personal experience with the InstaFits, but I hear they're pretty good. So take that for what it is.
Yeah. And I will say, hopefully that'll be useful to some folks, but that's like the thing to do these days is when you're in the market for something, you just make the rounds on these forums and groups on Facebook and say, is there a discount code for enter your product of choice that you're trying to shop for? Mm-hmm. So there's a couple discount codes for you if you're in the market for some stuff. Can go and check that out. So, all right, man. So let's get into this a little bit here. And as we're doing this, if you're with us in the Facebook group and you've got tips, recommendations, stuff like that for newbies that are getting into it, feel free to chime in. And if we like it, we'll share it. So do you want me to start, or would you like to take the bull by the horns here?
You can start, and then I'll feed off you. I like that.
Okay. Hungry fella? There you go. All right. So for me, the first thing, the first thing that I would say to anybody that's a newbie, I would really take a minute to think about the type of hunting that you're going to be doing. And why I say that is because if you're, depending on how new you are, right? If you just went with like a friend last year on a hunt or two and it hooked you, that type of hunting might not be the type of hunting that you're able to do on your own. So I'll give you an example. If you went on a honker field hunt with a buddy or something once or twice last year and you loved it, but you personally don't have any access to fields like that, or maybe you don't have geese like that in your immediate area, and you're more likely going to hunt public ground and some backwater sloughs or something like that, those are two really different styles of hunting that you're talking about. And what you're going to want to do to start into that is going to be pretty different. So I would really spend some time thinking about what kind of hunting are you going to do? What do you have access to? And what are you going to spend most of your time doing, right? So I think that is probably the first tip I would offer. And I say that, and that's going to be a common theme that I'm going to continue to lean on, in the sense that for me, when I got started, it was just like, I'm a gear guy kind of anyway. So I'm just like, any reason to blow money on gear, give it to me and I'll send it. Right. I mean, I'm into it. With the benefit of hindsight, you can definitely, there's no wrong way to buy gear because it's all good, but there's definitely a best practice, I would say. So the more you think about what you're buying and sort of how you're going to use it, probably the better off you'll be.
I like that. And I think, there have been quite a few questions like, hey, I have the bug. Where do I get started? Right? Like I went out one time, and I think something that you need to realize before you get into this is the time commitment that it takes to keep going and getting better and actually enjoying it. And, just from the practice to the gear prep to the post hunt, right? So if you go out with a friend and they have everything set up and for your first hunt, because that's kind of, the first hunt, come on out, we'll have everything set up, we have a blind for you, and just show up at this time and we'll get ready to go, right? So some people might say, well, I want to be part of the entire thing. Some people might say, sweet, I have kids at home, I'll just show up and hunt and then leave before everything's picked up. So understanding that time commitment to get everything ready to have a successful hunt, and the practice that goes into making ethical shots, and the post work of prepping the birds and everything that goes along with that, I think really needs to be accounted for before you start spending any type of money on gear or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, time's your most valuable resource. And if you know your time's going to be tight because of other commitments, like, you might want to think about how much money you really want to spend on something that you might not have a ton of time to commit to or whatever. But, your point's valid in the sense that, I'm a perfect example of that. I got hooked on duck hunting because I went on a guided hunt, and I basically we drove our vehicle up to the edge of the impoundment. We, hiked out in the middle of a flooded cornfield. I jumped up into a blind and we just started hunting, so if I thought that's what waterfowl hunting was going to be forever, I was poorly mistaken, but that was the hunt that got me hooked. So, at the time, that's all I knew. And, if that's what you're always going to do, then that's something that, you need to account for. You're going to spend a lot of money and time with outfitters and that kind of thing. But, the second thing I'll bring up is, I want to mention how much this topic changes over the years. When I started hunting waterfowl, which in the scope of things and a lot of people's probably not that long ago, relatively speaking, but 10 years ago or whenever it was now, at the time, full body decoys was the jam and layout blinds. I mean, like, those were big ticket items that everybody was talking about doing. And at the time, you could buy a half dozen decoys, full bodies, for $149, something like that. Now, that's a tough price point to come by for a full body decoy. Honkers, I'm talking now. We primarily do Canada geese hunting around here, so that's where I'm focusing this at this moment. So it's that, and layout blinds where you could get a tangle free off of Rogers for like $150, where today layout blinds cost you $300 unless you're going to go Rogers or something like that, which you can, and that's probably prudent. But when you look across the landscape, the cost of layout blinds are more expensive. Good luck finding a 6-pack of full body honkers for $149. Probably about as close as you'll get is something with Higdon. But again, I haven't shopped for full body decoys in so long, I don't even know exactly what the prices are. But my point with this, where I'm going with this, is that, silhouettes and socks and things like that at the time when I started, people thumbed their nose at that. That was like, silhouettes. I got a trailer full of 6 dozen full bodies, bro. Let's send it, So it's funny how it all comes around. And now silhouettes are very much in vogue, and socks and light, versatile type of decoy is super popular, and they're way more affordable. So it's funny how that's all kind of changed over time.
And people are having a ton of success with it. So that is crazy. And I'm going to go right into it. And, you mentioned the cost of decoys and these types of blinds or A-frames or layouts or whatever, but just the money commitment, right? The financial commitment to, do you have the shotgun that you want? Do you have decoys? Do you have waders? Do you have waterproof jackets? Do you have the gloves? Do you have the hats? Like, a lot of stuff, if you are already hunting, you can transfer over and see if you really like it. But once you get started after that first year, you start getting tuned into what makes you comfortable and what you really like. And it can get really expensive. So I think just
No question.
understanding that, and it's funny, when people say what should I get, the first thing to get in waterfowl hunting, and people say a second mortgage. Like, I don't think it's that intense, but and
Well,
we're getting comments on the side over here, but about the
yeah,
money that people spend. It's true. It's
yeah. I mean,
very.
here's some number to chew on, right? So where I live, I'm 2 hours away from the Maryland Eastern Shore. I could hunt up there as much as I want, right? If I wanted to just hunt there, I could do it. Up there, you can go with a guide for a variety of different price points, but the guys we typically hunt with are somewhere in like the $175 a day range, right? So let's use that as an example. $175 a day, you could hunt 10 Saturdays through the season for just over $1,700, right? So for just over the cost of a Super Black Eagle 3 or a Beretta 400 Extreme, plus whatever, a very nice autoloader shotgun, you could go with a guide 10 Saturdays a year, not set up a decoy, not own a decoy, not scout, not ask for permission once, and just show up and probably have a really good hunting season. You could do that here if that's the type of hunting you want to do, but you have to understand what it costs, right? But when you put that in perspective to where you go up to the shore and you're going to hunt over 200 floaters and you're going to hunt on a lease that costs 10 grand a year, and all of that, the money adds up quick. So $1,700 doesn't sound like too bad of a deal if you've got a reliable shotgun that you're happy with and some camo that can keep you warm or whatever. That's a viable option for a lot of people that probably, in my opinion, if you're just starting out, you're probably gonna have a lot more success. And you're probably gonna learn a whole heck of a lot more going that route than trying to spend a couple $100 on decoys and still get a pair of waders and whatever.
Yep, that's a great point. And we've always recommended before you do dive into it, go with a guide, go with a couple guides, see what you like, see how they operate, see what you need to get started, and really if you have that passion to jump into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think another thing too, a lot of people probably get started and they go with a group, right? So that's probably the most common way people do it, and it is a good way to do it. Pool your money and your resources with guys. The trouble with that is, like, if you rely on this buddy to store it at his house or whatever, like, you're just reliant on each other all the time. And while that can be fine, like, I've always liked the opportunity, to myself to be like, hey, if I stumble into a place where I get permission and I can go hunt the next day, like, I want to just I want to take the gear and go, and, having to almost like rely, I guarantee you've done it. And I know a lot of people have done it. Oh, I got to go over to so-and-so's house and grab the trailer tonight because we're going to hunt in the morning and it's at his house and I got to go get it. And it's like, you get there and the trailer is all disheveled because they hunted it another day and didn't clean it up like you would do it. And, like all of that kind of compounds, right? I mean, that's a whole nother deal, but it is a more budget friendly way to be able to get on the gear side, decoys, blinds, that kind of stuff, building that all together as a group. It's a good way to do it.
Yeah. And it's, I see Manini on the side, me and my best friend split everything. And it's almost like once you do that, it takes a special friendship to be able to keep it going, almost like a business. That's one of the first conversations we had about doing the podcast is like, you don't go into business with a friend, and it's really worked out great for us. But the same thing, like you said, if someone, hey, I got this spot, well, I got this spot and I think it's better, well, then you're already feuding about where all the decoys go the next morning. And once you get into 3 or 4 or 5 people splitting all that stuff, and everyone's scouting or looking around, then, tempers might start flaring up a little bit and complications. And you see people lose, you lose friendships over not getting the trailer that day. And it's kind of ridiculous, but
the divorce rate in this country is 50% or something like that, right? You think people are going to hesitate to break up with a hunting buddy when they're walking out on their marriages, that quickly. Like, I mean, just stuff happens, right? I mean, things happen. People get irritated. People make mistakes, and it could be a great way to save yourself some coin and get into things. But it could also be a great way to lose a lot of your gear or have problems because you got that tie-in. So again, it's something that I would just think through very carefully and thoroughly before I kind of dive into that, go full in on that. One of the bigger things, I hear people talking about is going together with buddies and getting boats. Okay. And it can be done, but that right there is a very, very difficult situation, because if you're hunting a boat, it's a finite number of people that can hunt that boat, right? And what happens when so-and-so wants to bring a buddy and you want to bring a buddy, or, it can just get really messy when you're talking, you can hunt 3 or 4 people at a time, right? And all of that. So again, not that I'm saying it's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea. It's just got to make sure it's a good fit for what your situation requires and what you're comfortable doing. I mean, I would split a boat with you in a heartbeat. There's probably only a handful of people that I would say that with, not because I don't like them, because I don't trust them. It's just, there's just too much, there's just too much unknown that could happen. I mean, what happens when, the buddy you own the boat with, he's got to move. He's taking a new job in another state and he wants to sell the boat. Well, if you can't buy it out, guess who's selling the boat? What I mean? You don't have a boat. So, again, just things to consider when you're getting into that arrangement. It's kind of like a marriage. You gotta figure out what's going to work.
No, I don't know what kind of graphics you have, but if you can put a big warning sign across the screen, now would be the time to do it, because that is one of the biggest. Like, it can be successful. Chances are it'll break up at some point.
I have no warning signs, but if we're talking about your internet, it did just break up, so I didn't really hear what you said in the beginning of that.
I said put a warning graphic up. That's all I said.
Yeah, I don't have a warning graphic, unfortunately. But anyway, so what else would you tell someone?
Hit the air horn.
Yeah. What else would you tell someone who's getting started and might be looking to asking some of these questions?
The next one I'm going to go to is, okay, so you decided that you want to invest, and you have your decoys, you have all your gear set up. You're ready to go. You go out hunting and you don't have a canoe or a kayak. How are you going to retrieve your birds? We're saying duck hunting, but just knowing that you can't just show up on the side of a lake and shoot birds and let them float out. So, no, again, going back to equipment, but are you going to have a proper way to recover your down game? And does that include a kayak, a canoe, or a dog? Or, yeah, minivan Dan. I'm just breaking it up here. But yeah, going back. So, and that goes back to the whole time commitment too. So if you're talking about having a dog doing retrieves for you, do you have a dog? Are you going to get a dog? Is it a puppy? Are you going to wait a year and a half before you get that dog out for the first season? And just being able to ethically hunt and retrieve the game is something that you need to have an idea about. If it's a pond, if you know you're just going to be hunting a pond and you shoot birds and they land on the land, or if they land in the water and you have a breeze that might push them to the side, or you can wait out, fine, that's all good and dandy. But once you start getting into different areas, you really need to consider that.
Yeah, I think that ties in a little bit to my first point on the type of hunting that you're going to be doing. So if you're going to be hunting lakes, as an example, and you're going to have deeper water, then you better have a boat or a dog or something. I hear a lot of people say, well, I'll have like a fishing pole with a treble hook. Okay. Like, Okay. Right. I mean, anyway, something to consider. But yeah, that's a big one. I mean, I actually really struggled with that one in the beginning because when I first started hunting on my own, all I had access to was streams and small rivers, I'll call them, but they're more like creeks that when I scouted them in the early fall and in summer, they looked fine, right? I'm like, yeah, I can wade across that easily, no problem. The water was kind of moving, but I'm like, I felt comfortable with the arrangement. Now, wintertime comes and it's cold and there's a lot more runoff and you get a snow and water levels come up and water starts running faster. Not only are you not going to recover birds on your own with that, you're really tempting yourself with some dangerous situations with water moving like that. So, really thinking about what you're about to get into is important. And I stopped hunting those spots because it's just too dangerous. I couldn't safely do it. And, it just wasn't worth the risk to me to try to deal with that. So, again, keep all that stuff in mind. It's a really good,
Did you, when you were hunting that, were you hunting long lines or were you hunting Texas rigs?
Texas rigs. Yeah. Yeah. So, the rigs would reach at normal water levels, but if the water would go up, I wouldn't, it couldn't reach. And I didn't have I had a tough time gauging that because where I was hunting was over an hour from my house. So it wasn't like I could just buzz over there and check the water depth, water levels. So if we had a rain or snow or something like that, I might think that enough time had passed for the streams to drop some. And there's some, stream gauges you can check around on the internet to get an idea. But what I found was that, rarely did I time it enough. It was always higher than what I was comfortable with. And it was just, well, one, I mean, it was hard to navigate wading, and two, birds just weren't using it. When the water was up and it was running fast, I mean, they just weren't using that area. So it was ineffective anyway.
Yeah. And I know this wasn't on my list, but just finding a mentor, finding a mentor, because, like you said, you can get yourself into trouble if that's okay. So you scout that in the fall and you see it and there's some birds working there and blah, 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 blah. Your Texas rigs are long enough, so you throw them out, and next thing you know, you think that you're able to wade out and get down birds. And like, if you didn't know any better, if you weren't used to any kind of water, and I mean, that you could be done. You could get sucked under right there. So having someone that could be, hey man, that's way too dangerous. And it takes me back to hunting an outflow with Trav a couple years ago, and we took Kimber down, and I was like, he's there's hundreds of mallards down here. Let's go smash. And so we went down there, and I was like, first of all, we can't get decoys out there. Second of all, we have 40 yards. If Kimber goes the entire way across for a bird and ends up in some of these trees that are down, like, she's done. And I couldn't swim in it. I know that. So especially with the temperatures and stuff. So just having that eye and the knowledge of being in some bad situations previously, what you can get away with and what you can't, and when to just shut it down and find a different spot.
Yeah. The mentor is a really good point for a lot of different reasons. But I'm going to hit on two that I think are very, very important for people that they need to understand when they're getting into waterfowl hunting. And if you've never done it or haven't done it much, you cannot possibly have a grasp or fathom how difficult these two things can be. One, bird identification. It's incredibly difficult to do, in my opinion. It's a really hard thing for people to learn, particularly when you're having to shoot at first light and low light situations. I think having a mentor to help you, when you're seeing birds in the field, talk to you about what type of bird that is and how they're able to know that, whether it be, color of their belly or the rate of their wing speed, whatever it is that they're using to identify those birds. Those are invaluable tips that if you're going to hunt waterfowl and do it legally, you better have a grip on what you're doing with bird identification. Second is the laws that you run into with waterfowl hunting. I mean, I'm not trying to say that I'm some world traveled hunter and I've done all of this stuff over the globe, but I've not hunted anything that's got more different variable regulations involved than duck hunting. I mean, it's just, there's a lot to unpack with bag limits and species and shots, all the different stuff that goes into it. Add in a place like Virginia where you've got blind laws, and if I'm in an inland waterway and I'm standing in the water, that's good. But if I shoot a duck and it lands on the land, I can't go get it because that's private property. All of that stuff, is things that you need to be aware of and need to be educated on, because if you break the law and you get caught, it's not going to be a good enough reason to be like, I'm a new hunter, I didn't know. Like, sorry, too bad. That's not their problem. So before you get into this deal, understand that you need to be able to, one, identify the birds you're shooting, and two, understand what you legally can and cannot do when you're waterfowl hunting, because it's different than any other thing that I've hunted. And those are two really, really important things in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to Manini, because he
So
said
much
the
run.
bird,
He's
the
getting
bird,
all the run tonight.
yeah, he hit the bird ID right off the bat, and
Oh, did he?
like you said, you get in trouble with the law, or how many times a year do you see it when someone posts up a picture of a grebe and says, what kind of teal is this? It's like, what's going on? So I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny, because
it's a problem. I mean, there are states that don't have early teal season because they're afraid of unnecessary harvest of wood ducks, because they're not confident that the average guy can tell the difference between the two. And for the most part, they're probably right. I mean, if you're not hunting teal regularly in the early season, like the first time you go out, you're not going to know. You're going to think a lot of wood ducks look like teal, guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot get stomped even where there are early teal seasons, and PA being an early teal season. I'm sure they either get hid in a boat or something.
I'm sure that was a very profound statement that we just missed.
Probably not.
Oh, what else you got, man?
My next one I wrote down is family. So, are you a single guy or girl? Are you married? Do you have kids? And I guess it goes back to the whole time commitment too, but, do you have someone able to watch the kids? Are you going to be gone during the week or weekends? And, how does that affect relationships at home? Especially if it is a new thing. A lot of people say, well, I met my wife and I was already hunting 10 years, so she knew what she was getting into. Well, now, there's a big swing of people that want good quality meat and they want to go out and harvest it themselves, and it's a lifestyle change. If you're going to be gone when you're usually home and cooking breakfast and you're not there till 11 or noon, or you're out all day, you need to make sure that everything's squared away at home.
Yeah, I mean, all hobbies, whether you're a duck hunter, you play golf, you fly fish, whatever, time away from home is time away from family. And no matter how you slice it, that puts pressure on your significant other, particularly if you have kids and things like that. So yeah, I mean, you gotta understand what that means and what that's going to do. And, I would likely guess that most people that are getting into duck hunting probably do some type of hunting already, whether it be small game or archery or whatever. I'm sure I would think most do some type of hunting already, because like I said, there's so much to unpack with duck hunting. I just think it would be super overwhelming to just have no outdoor experience whatsoever, and then you just jump right into that. So hopefully they have some appreciation. What they probably don't have appreciation for is the amount of time it can take to scout effectively and all that kind of stuff, which certainly, brushing a blind is not like hanging a deer stand. It takes way longer, in my opinion, to brush a blind in. So yeah, I mean, there's obviously there's that element that needs to be factored in all of those decisions. I one of the things that I would want to that I would want to convey to people before they get started, I think, is this is probably one of the more important things, I think. Myself included, when I got started, I associated with the best gear and the more gear equating to more success in the field. And that is 100% not an accurate statement. The camo that you have, the shotgun that you have, all of that stuff will kill ducks. You can go buy a brand new Benelli, a full Sitka setup, whatever you do. If you're not on the bird, you won't kill any ducks. You know what I'm saying? So I think getting people in the mindset of success is earned behind the wheel or out, pounding the road, finding birds, locating them, getting permission, getting set up on them. If you don't have that part down, you don't need to worry about having gear or anything else, because you're just going to set it up for the sake of setting it up. You know what I mean? So being able to access places with ducks or geese is the primary thing that you need to do to get started to be successful. Then, if you find the X, you don't need decoys. You get out there and hide yourself somehow, however you choose to do it. You'll shoot birds. You know what I mean? Like it'll happen. So I think that, it's sort of the cart before the horse kind of thing. You want to have all the gear because everyone loves to buy gear. It's fun to have and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't got the good feeds to set up on, it's kind of not going to do you much good.
I agree. I'm going to transfer right into my last point that I have anyway. And that is thinking about your work situation. And if you jump in and make a big financial commitment, is it worth it? Are you going to be able to hunt as much as you want? Maybe you don't have to go until later. You can hunt every single morning. That would be great. That'd be perfect. But if you hunt once a year, you might not want to invest all the money, and you might want to take trips and go with an outfitter. So just some another thought there.
Yeah, I completely, I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's just like, we care about hunting, right? It's special to us. We hold it near and dear. But when you unwrap all the emotion around it, it's no different than any other hobby. So whether your hobby is golf or bowling or fishing or snow skiing, it's all about the price value you put on recreation and the time that you get to spend doing something you enjoy, right? So whatever that's worth to you is what you should spend on your duck hunting gear, right? Whatever that ratio works out to time to enjoyment, wherever that falls, that's what you should spend. And if your budget affords you the ability to do that, then great. There'll be a lot of people on the internet that'll tell you that you shouldn't spend your money however you want to. I'm not one of them people. You spend it however you want to. You want to go buy everything that Drake waterfowl produces. God bless you, man. Do it. I'll high five you. Love that. I love seeing people support the waterfowl industry, no matter what company it is. I'm a big fan of that. But also, and this is my last point, I am a quality over quantity person. I have the same Sitka jacket that I bought in 2014, and I still hunt in it today. I hunt the same shotgun, the Beretta A300 that I bought when I started waterfowl hunting. I bought that back in 2000. Shortly after I started waterfowling. So I bought that in 2012 or 13, the first year it came out. I would recommend to people to think long-term when you make your purchases to the best that you can possibly afford to do it. So instead of buying the cheap 3.5-inch autoloader, my recommendation is to buy a quality 3-inch autoloader or a quality pump shotgun. And it doesn't have to be the Beretta or the Benelli $1,500 model. It can be their $8,000-$9,000 model. That gun will last you your lifetime, and you'll pass it on to your kids when it's time to go. Those are smart purchases that a guy can make that will help them in the waterfowl field, but it'll help them in anything that they do. One area that I think that quality is way overrated is decoys. I'm going to tell you why. because I've never seen a decoy that doesn't get the tar kicked out of it and get smashed and shot and destroyed and beat. Some will hold up a little better than others, but unless you're a guide where you're running your stuff 6 days a week and you're just really putting work in, you could probably find a decoy that's, affordable and will last you your life, will last you forever. You know what I mean? I look at like, I still have a set of green headgear mallards that I bought from Dick's Sporting Goods, the very first decoys I ever bought. I don't hunt them anymore, but if I wanted to, I could. They still get the job done. My lifetime decoy rigs with the self-healing foam, those things will be around as long as I'm duck hunting, because you can't sink them. You can shoot them all you want. They're perfect for that. So 2 different approaches. It's up to you on all of that kind of stuff. But I do think that there's something to be said for buying quality equipment and being able to get longevity out of it. Because I guarantee you, if you're a waterfowl hunter and you buy some things right off the bat, it will not be long till you want the next best thing. So, and you will buy the next best thing. And it's a repetitive cycle, right? But if you take the time to buy quality things from the beginning, you'll be less tempted to buy the next best thing because you've already got something that you're very, very happy with, right? That's been my experience. I mean, Sitka is the number one example of that I have. That in my shotgun, I still shoot an A300 when I could have easily shot something, higher than that. But I pointed at stuff, I pull the trigger and they die. It works pretty good. So I can't really complain about that. I don't know. What do you think about that point there, Dan?
I think it's a great point. And along that, I think one of the first things that I would say to a newbie, if you do buy waders,
no one knows what you just said.
buy breathable waders.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, that is another example of things that have changed over my hunting lifetime. When we started hunting, neoprenes were your only game in town. Wearing a breathable wader is what fly fishermen wore. That was it. But over time, that's changed. Now I think a lot of people are in the breathable camp. And, I think one thing that people can think about when they're getting started is what equipment can you buy that's going to be quality and is going to give you the most versatility throughout the entire length of the season. And a breathable wader will give you way more versatility in those early months. No question. It'll give you the ability to stay warm in the late season if you need to layer, and it'll give you the ability to hunt the late season with less layers if the temperatures rise a little bit and it's unseasonably warm. So, thinking through those kinds of decisions, while they seem kind of like, what's the difference between breathable and neoprene? Well, a lot, right? I mean, a lot is different. And, maybe you don't care to nerd out about it and think about it that much. But most duck hunters that I know are pretty serious about their stuff, and they put a lot of time, money, and thought into it. And, that's the right thing to do if you're going to get after this in a serious manner and have success all the time.
Yep, I agree. I think we hit some very good points and, for some thought-provoking points. So if people are getting into it and have any questions, feel free to hit us up or, put your comments in the group and hear from 9,000 other people that have been through it.
I'm going to bring this in right quick here just because I think it's a good point. Don't be afraid to buy used decoys. Fantastic idea. A lot of people can buy decoys and repurpose them, sell them, repaint them, use them. Great way to get started for sure. Wear your life jacket. This is one that I think a lot of duck hunters probably are not coming into with a healthy respect of. If you're a deer hunter or a turkey, you're never wearing a PFD in those types of hunts, right? I mean, you're not really worried about it. I would equate the PFD for duck hunters to the big push that you saw several years back for deer hunters hunting from tree stands with a safety harness. Every tree stands now, you buy them, they come with a safety harness. It's like when we were growing up, wearing seatbelts wasn't really a thing. They like made the whole big marketing plan, click it or ticket kind of thing to like make it a thing. Today, you can still flip open the DU or Delta magazine and see people in a duck hunting boat not wearing their PFD. You see it all the time. It's not been entrenched into the community that it's not an option. It is not a nice to have. It is a absolute 100% requirement. And that's definitely something that I would say for anybody that's getting into this in the beginning, get a PFD that's going to work for you, that you're going to wear. So if the one you have now is uncomfortable and you wear it when you're bass fishing and you take it off when you get to your spot, get a different one, get a better one, get something that's comfortable, right? Because literally it could save your life. And the chances of it saving your life are much, much higher in the waterfowl season when the water's cold and things get a little strange. When if you fall out of your boat when you're bass fishing, you're probably going to make it.
Yeah. I think we should have a PSA every episode, just starting out with that.
Yeah, it's probably a great idea. Just you just got to be the headlight, Dan. Be the light in the dark. Be the light, Dan.
I'm like the strobe light with my internet. It just comes and goes.
Yeah. Even a robo PSA is better than no PSA.
That's true.
Yeah, I would concur with that. Well, I think to kind of summarize the discussion here, there is a lot to unpack when it comes to, hey, I want to get started doing this. And I can remember you and I talking the first time I was getting into hunting, and I was just asking you questions. I was like, so like, how does this work? And you were like, don't forget, like, take your shell casings off the top of your blind, because like they could see that. And I remember thinking, I'm like, what, bro? Like, get out of here. Like, that's not a thing. I was like, that's crazy. But you don't know what you don't know. So I think that's why the mentor aspect is super important if you can find one. Local DU and Delta chapters can be another great resource if you don't have a mentor. This show was started in part because, we recognize that there's a lot of people out there that have interest and want to get into this sport that don't have a mentor. So we have a million resources here between our episodes and our Facebook group and the guests that we have on this show. Part of why we've started doing these in the listeners group is like, if you've got questions about something, let us know. And if we can find an expert in that area, we'll get them on the show. We'll get them on this in the group, and we'll ask your questions directly. I mean, we will get to the bottom of it, right? We want this show to be a platform that's a resource for all, not just new, but experienced as well. But the best part about the community that we've built is that our experienced depth of our group and the folks that listen to this show and that are engaged in this community is so expansive that oftentimes it's just a Facebook post away and you'll have your answer within seconds when our group, and you won't have anybody telling you to hit the search function. You won't have anybody telling you to do something other stupid thing that you'll hear in all these other groups and stuff. We've really worked hard to try to keep that out of this group, and I think we've done a pretty good job. So if you're not in there now, definitely go over, check it out. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If anyone gives you a hard time, Dan will boot them out of the group. It's pretty straightforward. So, it's a great opportunity. I mean, the resource is there. So definitely don't be afraid to use it.
Banhammer.
Yeah, Banhammer's been pretty quiet lately.
It has. It's been nice in there. So
let me
especially for an off season. This is pretty crazy.
I mean, COVID's got people all tamed down, I guess. I don't know what the deal is, but I want to give an announcement here. So up until COVID started, I had never seen a Marvel's movie, not one. Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider, any of those. I never watched any of them. I've now watched all of them. My son wanted us to watch them all, so we did, and we watched them in like chronological order. So like the stories lined up now, and they make sense, and it was cool. I enjoyed it. It was fun. But one of the big things we always talked about was which Avenger would you be, or which person would you be if you could have their traits and their stuff. And I was always steadfast from day one. I was a Thor guy, and I just always envisioned the banhammer. And so I was always on Team Thor.
Yep, I'm a Thor guy as well.
Yeah,
and Dawson's straight Hulk. He just loves the Hulk.
Hulk smash. I like that. That's good.
Yep.
Let's go. So anyway, that's all I got, man. I think that was a good, hopefully a good talk on some things to consider when you're getting started in here. We didn't really deep dive into like specific things you should buy. Certainly if if you're in the market for a gun or camo or decoys or whatever it is, we can certainly offer our opinion on that. But the good news is in the line of gear, there's a lot of quality choices out there on the market today. We've talked about that in the past in this show, where innovation and development forces everybody else in the space to step their game up. And you've seen that. So, if you're looking for a decoy, there's lots of quality choices out there. If you're looking for waders, there's quality choices there. If you're looking for shot shells and ammunition, there's a lot of great choices there. It really does span the gamut. And I think that's something that, is only going to continue to get better. And hopefully with that competition becomes more affordability, and it puts it in reach for, everybody and the common guy out there that can go out there on the weekend and use their stuff. So I think that's all I got, man.
I would say one last thing would be have a safety checklist, right? If it's not loading your gun until you're ready to shoot, if it's not, not traveling with a loaded gun, if it's hearing protection, like really concentrate on the safety aspect of everything.
Yeah, I mean,
going with the PFDs.
Yeah, I mean, we saw some pretty horrific things happen this past season, with firearm accidents and things in the field, and people losing their lives because of it. Young kids that have their whole lives ahead of them. Some really, really tragic stuff. And yeah, that's the thing, man. This is something that we love to do and we are passionate about it, but you have to treat it with respect. I just had this conversation with my son yesterday. He wrecked his bike for the first time. We were out on a family bike ride, and it was like flat road, and he just like bit the dust. And, I turned back, and he's laid out, skin, knees, elbows, the whole deal. And it was the first time he had it happen. And I knew it was coming because he's doing more hands off, swerving around, hot rodding it. And I told him, I said, you're getting more comfortable on your bike. You got it figured out. You got it under control. But I'm like, the second you don't respect it, it's going to bite you. And this is what happens. And it's the same thing with waterfowl hunting. You spend, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years hunting and being around firearms and all of these things. It's easy to get complacent. It's as easy to be complacent 20 years in as it is, making a mistake, not knowing on your first or second hunt, right? No matter where you're at in that gamut, it's something that the minute you don't respect it, it could literally cost you your life. So without question, understanding how to do these things safe is paramount above all, and something that should definitely not be overlooked.
Yeah, and especially the gun safety. I remember when I was hunting with Barton and I had my gun in the A-frame. It was unloaded, but it was turned away from him. He's like, dude, put your safety on. And I had just sat down. So, everything was open and no shells in the gun or anything. But don't be afraid to call people out. Like, if it's not just their life, it's your life, it's your dog's life, it's your friend's life. It's, there's a lot that goes into that. And I knew, like, mentally, I was like, I haven't even touched any ammo yet. So, my gun I just set down, but to get, just for him to say that, I was like, all right, yep. Like no issue with him saying it to me at all.
Well, I was going to say, if you've got a friend in your hunting group that takes issue with you being safety conscious and ask him to put his gun on safe, then that's probably someone you don't need in your blind, because that's the kind of person who's going to get you killed. Yep. So, Yeah, I mean, I think that's just doing the right thing and being a good hunting buddy and all that kind of stuff, because it's easy to do. I mean, most of the time I flip my safety back on just out of muscle memory, right? I mean, I don't even think about it. It's like off, bang, bang, back on. So if I didn't do that, I probably would have no idea that my gun wasn't on safe, because I just do it naturally, right? So like you might point that out to me and I'd be like, oh dang, like I didn't even realize, that could be that kind of deal. So you don't know what the other person's thinking. So I'd rather be safe than sorry, as they say.
Yep. No. Just focus mainly on that. Nothing, no duck is worth a life, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. Well, I think this has been a good chat. If you're sitting at home this summer and you're listening to this episode and you're thinking, these dudes are talking to me, man. I'm thinking about getting after it this fall and this winter hunting ducks. If you've got other questions that we didn't hit us up, shoot us an email, hit us up on Facebook. We like people to hit us up on Facebook in the Facebook group. That way you can get opinions from not just us. You can get opinions from all kinds of people. You might get opinions from guys that have been hunting for 30 years. You might get opinions for guys who last year was their first season, and they can tell you, hey, I did this. That was a mistake. Or I did this and I'm super glad I did. It saved me all this. I learned all that, whatever. Right. So, don't be afraid to get in there and post up. And yeah, looking forward to hearing from folks. And it's always some of my favorite posts, seeing people that they're going to get after it this fall for the first time, or, hey, I got to hunt a few times last year and it hooked me. Now I'm really excited. Like, cause I remember like it was yesterday what that felt like. And, that fire still burns bright inside, and you'll never lose that. I mean, if it truly hooks you like that, you will never lose it. And it's just I remember the journey,
the emails that you would send to me, just paragraphs long. If this happens, then what do you do with this? And this, I'm just like, dang, man. All right, let's get on it. So
yeah, I mean,
awesome.
there's not much in my life that I do like halfway. Like pretty much everything, if I'm going to go in, I'm going all in. It's full send. And that definitely was the way it was. I was just like, pounding away on the keyboard. And I can remember at that time, goose hunting chat was still a thing. And I would read in goose hunting chat. I'm like, what is this? And I'd turn around and I'd write to you. I'd be like, what is this? Like, what are they talking about? So, yeah, cool stuff. So anyway, all right, man. I think that's going to do it for this week. Appreciate you hanging out. And till next time, I guess, right? You got anything else?
That's it. Go cat paw.
Go cat paw. Jesus. All right. All the guys that joined us tonight in the listeners group, thank you. Enjoyed it. Appreciate it as always. And that's going to do it for this week. So on that, we will get out of here. That's going to do it for this episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. If you're new to the show, head over to iTunes, check out some of our past episodes, and while you're there, leave us a 5-star rating and review. It's the best way for like-minded hunters just like you to find our show. Check us out on social media, check us out over at hpoutdoors.com, and anywhere you can find quality podcast content. That's going to do it for this week. Till next time, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.